Welcome to Personal Injury Marketing Minute.
Welcome to the Personal Injury Marketing Minute, where we quickly cover the hot topics in the legal marketing world. I'm your host, Lindsay Busfield, the Vice President and Partner over at Optimize My Firm. Today, I'm joined by Leah Miller, the founder and CEO of Firmly Profits. Leah started her career inside a personal injury law firm and worked her way up to CFO before launching Firmly Profits to help law firm owners gain clarity and confidence in their financials. In today's Spotlight on PILMA series episode, we're learning more about Leah's presentation on forecasting personal injury fees and why so many firms struggle to predict their revenue accurately. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, for those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and about your business.
Like you said, I worked my way up as a law firm administrator, CFO of a personal injury firm, and honestly thought I would do that forever. And then I started working in the financials with some friends I had and other people in the industry. And I realized there was such a need for law firm owners to just have more guidance and confidence in their finances. So that's 3 years ago. I launched Firmly Profits. It was called LNM Financial when I first launched it, and then I rebranded, which is a terrible idea. But it was a terrible name in the beginning, so I had to rebrand. And since then, I've been offering CFO services and bookkeeping services for law firms. In the beginning, I was doing some service-based businesses that were not law firms, but now we're exclusively law firms. And one of my specialties is personal injury firms. So that's where my background is. That's what I worked in. And I really like to help personal injury firm owners have more confidence in their financials so they can make more confident operational decisions, marketing decisions. A lot of times firm owners think the operational and the marketing decisions come first, and then you kind of just hope that there's money. Um, but in the end, it makes more sense to start with the money and work out from there.
Well, and you're smart to niche down into law firms, and especially with personal injury law firms, they're so different than any other business model out there just because the cash flow is unpredictable and not necessarily knowing what is going to be available financially at the end of the year versus the end of 2 years. It can seem like an absolute nightmare when you're trying to budget and make plans that are in line with your operations and marketing and pulling all of these pieces together. So, talk to us a little bit more in depth about that navigating that uncertainty and how do you make that a little bit more predictable?
So the biggest thing is knowing the numbers. And so I preach to everybody, you need to look at your financials at least once a month and understand not necessarily the snapshot in time. So, I was meeting with a client today. We look at a snapshot in time and maybe January, February wasn't great, but over time, things are looking, a lot different. And so what I really focus on is the trends over time. And so with personal injury firms specifically, you need to look at trends. And there's two parts to it really of kind of stabilizing some of that cash flow and learning to budget for it. It's knowing what you actually have in the pipeline right now. So what's coming down the pipeline and knowing what your historical settlements and values and trends are. And so with that information, we can put it together and see, okay, with some degree of uncertainty, because there's always uncertainty in personal injury law. We can see, July, August going to be great months, not so great in October. What do we need to do to either stabilize that, save money? Can we do something operationally to kind of move things along at a more efficient pace? And then we're also looking on the marketing side of what does intake look like? And so there's really two big parts to personal injury finances. It's what's happening right now with the operations and what does intake look like? Because if your intake is terrible today, December 2027 is going to be a rough month.
Right.
And so It's really all encompassing of what data are you tracking? What data are you looking at? And are we actually looking at it on a month-to-month basis and making those decisions?
And so when it comes to looking at the different data points along these lines, because I mean, let's face it, attorneys, even the best attorney, isn't necessarily the best business owner or isn't the best with financials. What specifically should they be evaluating on a month to month basis or on an annual basis?
So the biggest thing month to month that I want, like if we want to make it as simple as possible, what is your revenue? What are your expenses? What is your net profit? Like that is like the most basic that you should be able to kind of spout off the top of your head. And I'll get on calls with, consult calls or discovery calls with law firm owners and like, what is your revenue trending for this year? And some of them can tell me with a little degree of certainty. Some of them have no idea. They're like, well, I hope we're going to reach 2.5 million this year. I'm like, okay, how do you know that that is possible?
And what is this hope based off of?
Or are we, yeah. So like what, and so that's the thing. It's so different in personal injury where I have clients that bill hourly, like family law, things like that. It's essentially like those clients were like, hey, we need to meet our billable hours and then we've got our revenue. It's a collections problem a lot of time. With personal injury, it's, are things moving efficiently? Are associate attorneys settling cases at max value? Are cases being held up in the demand process? Are we waiting too long to negotiate with adjusters? And so cases are just sitting for 2 or 3 months in negotiations. Again, back to that, is intake doing what it's supposed to do? Are we getting the leads? Like there's so many different parts to it. And that's where really the financials come into play of we can look at the financials. I can look at somebody's financials and almost pinpoint where the problem is a lot of the time in that whole process. But the basic is revenue, expenses, net profit. And then from there, we can dig deeper. How much are you spending on your people? How much are you spending on marketing? How much are you spending on the rest of your operational expenses? Those three things, if we pull the levers there, we can increase leads, increase efficiencies, increase net profit. And so that's where like we dig deeper and deeper. But the biggest thing, if you're doing nothing else as a law firm owner, I want you to review the financials every month and know what your revenue is, what your expenses are, and what the net profit is. And watch those trends and start making decisions based on your goals that will get you there with that.
Well, and you've worked with several law firms over the years and have seen law firms doing it well. You've seen law firms not doing it well. And so, what kinds of decisions start to break down? What operationally starts to break down if somebody doesn't have a clear understanding of where their financials are?
The biggest thing with operations and kind of where I can pick that operations are the problem is we start adding people to a problem. So, your staff's coming to you, they're like, we're overworked. You know that cases aren't being worked because the revenue's not coming in. There's a jam up somewhere. Something's not working right. You're bringing in the cases. So it's not a marketing problem because we're putting all this money into marketing. So you keep hiring people. But like the problem never gets fixed. You have more people, more money out, and then the cash flow goes down. And then you're feeling, the pain there. And what that tells me is there's something within the operations that we need to fix. So do we optimize the way that we send out demand letters? Is there some kind of technology that can help our staff get that done quicker? Do we need to train our associate attorneys to negotiate a little bit differently, file suit a little faster, settle cases for a little bit more money? Like, is there training there that's needed? On the back end, we settle a case. Great. We're, settled the case. Everybody starts working on the other case and they forget about the settled case. And then somewhere in there, like we might get a check, we might get a release, but it's like 45, 50 days down the road before we're actually getting our money. And so that's where we can dig into the operations and see if we have too many people, if your revenue, if your wages compared to revenue is 40, 50, 60% of revenue, there is something in that operations that is broken. And that's where you can dig down and say like, okay, what part of the operations is broken? It's funny. There's been times where I've seen, data, and I've said to a client like, hey, this is not working. And they're like, no, it's fine. Like, it's fine. We've got it all figured out. And then like 2 months down the road, I literally had somebody say, hey, you told me that this was the problem, and come to find out this person wasn't actually doing what I thought they were doing. And so it was the problem. And you can looking at the trends, that's how you can pick that stuff out.
Well, and that's a great point is that, the numbers are there. And so as long as you have an idea of what these trends and numbers are doing, you can go back into this and kind of reverse engineer where the leads and the lags are in terms of your operational flow. And so one of the benefits of working with somebody like you is that even if the attorney doesn't really know how to assess what numbers to look at or what these numbers mean or looking at these patterns, you do. And so I think that it's a really great idea that, if you are stuck, hiring in somebody even in a fractional relationship can really make a huge difference for the long-term health of your law firm. And so when we are talking to firms that are newer and that they don't necessarily have the data and the trends to look at, what advice can you give to them if they're, a new personal injury firm that doesn't have these numbers to look at to project out?
So I think the first thing is start tracking them now. A lot easier than, sometimes as a new business owner, you're like, I don't need to track the financial data. I don't need to track this data. Like, we're just not there yet. And I get it. As a new business owner, like, you're literally trying to survive. But you can start doing this on a smaller level. And so you may not have the data to make say, okay, there's an operational problem, because it's you and a paralegal, like, you guys are the problem. If there's a problem, it's easy to find. But I also use that information like to set a budget, but I'm big on budgets. And so even in my own business, I follow a version of Profit First. I set a budget, and so you can set a budget based on your goals, and that's how you can hire and spend money on marketing. And so you don't need all the old data to use it for forward thinking. You can set set the budget based on the goals you have realistically. And so, when I talk to people about budgets, I'll say, what is your revenue goal this year? And they're like, $5 million, but they did like 100,000 last year. I'm like, great. I want you to hit $5 million. I'm not telling you you're not going to hit $5 million, but for budgeting purposes and how much money we're going to spend, what do we realistically think, it could be if we don't hit that huge goal? And so, okay, we're going to set the revenue goal at $1 million. This is what we're going to spend our money on. And so then from there, you can break it down and say, okay, if we're going to do $1 million, we need to do this much every month. That means we need to be settling 5 cases a month. But to settle 5 cases, we have to send out 10 demand letters. And to send out 10 demand letters, we need to be bringing in 20 clients a month. And so you start reverse engineering all that. And you may see like, hey, yeah, we're there. We're bringing in 20 clients a month. We're sending 10 demand letters, or, 8 demand letters. Let's just up it 2 more. Or it may be a reality check of like, okay, we're not going to hit $1 million this year, and that's fine. That's just not where we are in our firm yet. We will be there. Maybe we're going to hit 750,000. And based on that reality, we can push for a little bit more, but we're going to spend based on the 750. And so you kind of build your data and build into it and put it together.
Right. And that creates a really great roadmap for people who really want to have an understanding of where they can be and set realistic goals versus just goals. And it makes it very actionable and much more attainable. And you can even put in accountability steps along the way there to make sure that you are sending out the right number of demand letters and be like, okay, well, this is how many I need to send out a week or a month to keep yourself on track to achieve those goals. So, last thing I want to talk about here, of course, we're excited about PILMA. Can't wait to meet you out there and listen to your presentation. But what are you looking forward to most about PILMA this year?
I'm looking forward to just meeting more firm owners. It sounds super cliched, but I just love educating. So at one point, I even taught at the paralegal, like the local college where I got my paralegal degree. I taught paralegal classes. I love educating. And so I just love getting in front of people and helping as much as possible. I have realized as a business owner, I can't help everybody one on one. And
Right.
so I would love to. I want to. I want to help everybody. I want to help the person just starting out. I want to help the person that's been in business for 20 years. But obviously, there's a capacity issue there. I only have so much time in my day. So I love events like this where I can give my presentation. But the best part is afterwards, when I can talk to firm owners. So the last time I was at an event, I gave my presentation, and then I literally had law firm owners coming up to me. They're like, "Can you look at my spreadsheet?" I'm like, "Yes, I love spreadsheets." And so I will sit down, I'll look at it. I chat with people in my DMs and LinkedIn about stuff. My goal in life is just to educate, and obviously like I need to make money and have a business. So like I do help clients in that way, but if that was not an option, like if that was not a necessity, I just love talking to people and helping them as much as possible.
Well, I think so many of us go to PILMA with that same mindset. We're all experts in our field. We all want really great law firms to succeed. And the people that we meet at PILMA are just phenomenal. I mean, these are just the nicest group of attorneys that you could ever meet. And so to know that what you are doing and the information that you're giving them is making a difference in their lives and their firms, and in turn in the clients that they're helping so that they can grow and help more clients to get great service. Uh, it's a great feeling. So I'm excited to meet you out there. And that's going to wrap up today's episode of the Personal Injury Marketing Minute. I thank you so much for joining us on the show today. It's been wonderful. And for our listeners, be sure to like, subscribe, do everything that you need to do to not miss out on any upcoming Spotlight on PILMA episode. It's coming up. We've got a great lineup of speakers who are going to be at the PILMA conference in May in San Antonio. And I am so happy that you were able to join us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.